online.
We're online. Hello world. Up to here.
Yes.
It doesn't matter if you have the most beautiful location. It doesn't matter if your ecotourism practices set standards for others to follow. It doesn't matter if you have delicious food sourced locally, grown organically. It doesn't matter if you employ local people, local staff, local guides, that ensure that your guests have the most memorable experiences that they'll never forget. It doesn't matter if you have conservation practices built into your guest experience. All of these things, in effect, don't matter if you cannot communicate them effectively. As Thomas said, my name is Chris Milnes and I'm a consultant from the UK. And I now live in Greece. I am a founding member, together with 20 other individuals, of the Hellenic Ecotourism Society. And I'm here today to talk to you about how to communicate ecotourism. To give you a little bit of background about me, I don't have a tourism background, I have a legal background. And an experience that I had in Nepal in 2009 changed my thinking, my approach to what I want to do in life. I went mountain biking and I stayed in local villages, and we were talking about it in the bar last night actually, the most memorable tourism experience you've ever had, and mine was in Nepal. And it's quite poignant now that I'm talking to you a couple of days after one of the largest earthquakes ever. Kathmandu is in ruin, and I think that it would be very difficult for Nepal to recover from this, but one way that they can is through responsible tourism and ecotourism. So, how to communicate ecotourism? This is something that we're currently faced with in Greece, and I've spoken to numerous members here of the audience about what they think of when they think of Greece. Some of you told me about sea, sand, sun, mass tourism. It's true. There is a lot of mass tourism in Greece. Other people told me about culture and history, tourism. These are things that Greece has to offer. But none of the people that I spoke to told me about the other landscapes and things that Greece has to offer. Would anyone realise that is in Greece? Probably not. These are the mountains in the Mani area of southern Greece, in Peloponnese, in the mainland. 2,500 metre mountain there. Untouched landscape, forests, incredible hiking trails, and yet very few people are making use of these trails and visiting this amazing area. This is my legs in central Greece, looking out on the Pylio Peninsula. Again, very attractive landscapes, coastal scapes, mountains. There's a lot of potential there for ecotourism. That's another shot that I took recently from a Greek island. It's another problem in Greece. It's what we're faced with every day. illegal dumps, legal dumps that aren't managed properly, people throwing their waste over the edge of a cliff, straight into the sea. And this is the most beautiful part of the whole island. It's tragic. And it's happening every day. I think everyone here knows about the current economic situation in Greece as well. Struggling. Austerity measures are crippling the economy. And people are out of work. They're moving away from rural areas into the cities. And these beautiful landscapes are suffering because of that. And with that in mind, I got together with 20 like-minded individuals to form the Hellenic Ecotourism Society. Here you can see hotels, agro-tourism hotels, NGOs, an online retailer for ecotourism destinations, mountain activity provider, Paths of Greece, which is a movement to create pathways throughout Greece so that people can benefit from the tourism that would create, because at present the network of pathways could be a lot better, and that's why it's being enhanced. Which is exactly my point. Okay, I'll repeat it. Okay? Sure. How can you communicate, or how will tourists come and find you if you can't communicate effectively? Coming back to what I started with. And that's what I want to talk to you about today, because it is so important. If your business does not get the tourists that it deserves, then how can it sustain itself financially and keep benefiting local communities, keep engaging in local conservation projects? I'm going to tell you the things that I've learned from learning by doing, and through the research that I've done. The first thing, actually I want to ask, who in this audience is an ecotourism provider? You're not sure? Okay. It's interesting. So about a third of the people here. The first thing that I would advise you to do is know your product. Understand it and define it. What is it that you're offering? Is it in fact ecotourism? I won't dwell on this too much because we spoke a lot about definitions yesterday. We spoke about that definition from the International Ecotourism Society. Responsible travel to natural areas that conserves the environment, sustains the well-being of the local people, and involves interpretation and education. If you think that's what you have to offer, think about your assets. What is it that you can offer? Let's take a look at this photograph here. I'm going to use this fancy laser pen to point out Ephemelia. This is the agro-tourism resort in southern Greece, and one of the founding members of the Hellenic Ecotourism Society. What assets do we have there? Anyone? I'll answer for you. Mountains, olive trees, wildflowers. All assets that you can communicate to people to attract them and get them to come to your destination. You also need to talk about what you do for the local communities, because that's also very important. What you do for the local environment. How you educate and interpret the tourism experience that you're offering. And of course your commitment to ecotourism. Mary mentioned yesterday, it doesn't matter if you're not using the word ecotourism. As long as you're committed to the principles behind it, and you share those principles with the people who you're targeting, that's how you're going to communicate your message and get them to come and visit you. Think about the benefits as well. The benefits for the local community, the benefits for the environment, the benefits for the customer, for the guest. What are they going to experience at your hotel or in your, with your tour operator that they won't be able to experience elsewhere? And think about what it is that you have to offer from the perspective of someone who is not a local and is not used to harvesting olives. That's me, in case you didn't realise, in my olive grove in Greece. This sort of thing is very attractive to people who are not used to that. You know, who here has been able to pick an olive from a tree? Probably not many of you. Can you pick an orange from a tree in Poland and eat it? No. To a Greek, that's something obvious. It's just part of everyday life, but you need to think from the perspective of the people that you're targeting. What will get them to come? Because I can tell you, if you pluck an orange from a tree and taste how good it is, it's been in the sun for all those months, it's a fantastic experience. Certification. We talked about this again yesterday at length, so I won't dwell on it. I will, however, mention that we know about the economic crisis at present in Greece. As a result of this, businesses are looking to diversify. They're looking to other options to attract mainly foreign tourists. Domestic tourists are not travelling as much at the moment. They're not spending as much as they used to. And that's really affecting the economy, the tourism businesses. So, people are thinking, okay, so how can we try and sell what we have in a different way? Well, let's call it ecotourism. Let's try and attract these people who are interested in sustainability. Unfortunately, this is resulting in greenwashing throughout the country. People offering things that they don't really experience, or that guests don't get to experience when they come to the hotel. Labels help by gaining trust. If you have a label, a tourist that will come to you knows that at least you have gone through the process to get that label, and that builds trust. There are different types of label. Environmental, such as the EU Eco label there, and the EMAS label, the EU. The EU Flower and EMAS, and this Eco Management and Audit System. Yeah, I've remembered now. Service specific, like the US label Energy Star, that focuses mainly on products and energy efficiency. Blue Flag, we talked about that yesterday as well. And there are sustainable tourism labels, many of them. We're flooded with sustainable tourism labels. But they do serve a purpose. They do help to ensure that what hotels are offering is in fact exactly what it says on the tin, so to say. Ecotourism labels are different in the fact that they focus on nature as part of the whole experience. Here are some examples from throughout Europe. And the way that we can use these labels and ensure that they all comply to the same standards is by getting GSTC recognition. Does anyone know that label in the audience? 2, 3 people. Okay, that's 4 people. That's something to talk about later in this presentation. Moving forward, you need to know your market. Who is it that you're trying to attract to your business? Focus on your visitor. Are they active? Are they young? Are they old? What sort of activity are they looking for? It's important to know who you're targeting so that you can focus. Track interest. You can do this via content management systems and inbuilt apps in those to see who is coming to your visiting your website, which country citizens are interested in what you have to offer. Google Analytics is also very helpful for that. When the guests do come to your hotel or business, ask them to leave their details so that you know where they're from and you can build a database so that you can contact them again, because repeat visitors are important, especially in ecotourism. Adapt your message. And this goes to for ecotourism in general. It doesn't matter if you're talking to a local authority, to a tourist, to a funding agency. You have to adapt your message to suit that target group, because if you don't, your chances of communicating the message successfully are dramatically decreased. Speak their language. I'm speaking English here and we've got Polish interpretation. If you don't speak those languages, you're pretty stuck. This is an issue we're faced with in Europe, in the world. What language should we use? And what type of language should we use? To communicate to tourists who are perhaps not familiar with the ins and outs of ecotourism, we don't need to bombard them with technical terminology. We need to focus on experience and what they can get out of the trip that they're going to take when they come to stay with you. Like I said, highlight experiences. We talked about it yesterday. People are coming for the experience. If they're coming to an ecotourism destination, they will probably expect a high level of energy efficiency, solar panels, this sort of thing. But it's the experience that they're coming for. And focus on ecotourism principles. Develop principles for your destination and spread the word. Tell people about them. Because you're doing great things. That's why it's important to tell people about them and attract them and get them to come and see what you're doing. Educate them. Give them an experience that they will remember. This photo was taken from a hotel website. I'm not quite sure what they're trying to show here. Perhaps it has a balcony or the lovely pink walls, I don't know. But that's an example of how putting an image on your website like that is going to affect your online marketing. That doesn't attract me. I won't go and visit that place. Perhaps it's beautiful. I don't know. Websites are key to communicating your ecotourism message. Make sure that they are easy to use, that they look good, and that they are mobile ready. See Mary using an iPad here, various people tweeting using phones. Everyone is using their phones now to go and visit websites. If you have a dated website for your current business that people cannot access via a phone, you're really limiting your target audience. What else can you put on? Think about what you have to offer in your area. And add good images, add videos. We saw Jeppe showed the video for Oregon yesterday. Not very expensive to make, I'm sure, but it creates such an effective message to sell what they are offering to people who are interested in come and visit. Music. People don't often think about music when they're trying to sell a destination, but it's also very important. Traditional dance, poetry, all of these sort of things. Think about what your destination has from the perspective of someone from a different country that are not used to the things that you see every day. And use the right words. This is a tricky one, because it's open to interpretation. But if you're using words like environmentally friendly, eco-friendly, green, ecotourism, these are words that people will be searching for and will generally be able to understand if you say something is environmentally friendly. But don't use technical terminology that will confuse people. Does anyone here have a blog? Yeah. A blog is a good way to link with your website to update content to the web on a regular basis. It doesn't have to be every day, every couple of weeks, just to keep the message going. Tell people about what you're doing. Spread the message of sustainability that you're sharing and that you're living at your destination. Share reviews from satisfied customers. We all know TripAdvisor. We've seen that the effect that TripAdvisor is having on destinations, bad reviews by people. People are going and looking and seeing what other people think. They're not necessarily going to look at the website to see what they're telling you about their own destination. A good content management system. The content management system, if you don't know, is the bones behind the website. How easy is it to update? How easy is it for you to put photographs on it? This is very important. If it's difficult, then it will hinder your effectiveness to communicate your message. And search engine optimization. WordPress, for example, is a content management system. It's simple, it's easy to use, and you can buy frameworks that go behind what they call a skin, and then the skin is what it looks like, but the framework will help with things like security, with search engine optimization, keywords, so that when people search for, let's say, ecotourism Jachranka, if you have these keywords in your business website, then you stand more chance of being found by Google in those searches. And I mentioned Google Analytics before. Google Analytics is a good way to see who is coming to your website, so you can target them more effectively. And here's another very lovely photograph of a pillow and a balcony, I think. I'll move on. I won't dwell on social media for too long because I was going to talk about that after my presentation. But social media is something that's helping Greek businesses because it's cost effective. You have access to a huge amount of users, and with the click of a button you can spread the message of your business, and other people who then like what you're doing and will share it. The chances of spreading that message over a huge amount of people is fantastic. We're doing it here. People with the hashtag EuroEco15 are able to follow what we're doing and watch videos that Ive is uploading. It's a good idea to monitor your progress. TweetDeck and Cloud.com are useful tools for this, to see what reach your posts are getting, how many shares they're getting, this sort of thing. The next generation, I don't know whether you will speak about these either. Hello. Yes. Okay, I won't go too much into detail. Hello is a new social media, relatively new social media platform that prides itself on not being full of advertisements. One to watch out for in the future. And Edgy is a little like Twitter, but it gives you more options, so you can send longer messages and videos and photographs. TripAdvisor I've mentioned. It's very important. More and more people, I see this in Greece actually. I go into a restaurant, the first thing in the menu is not about the restaurant, it's TripAdvisor, 5 stars or 4 stars. This is what our customers think of us. And when I remember very well, 2 weeks ago I went into a restaurant and it was terrible. It really was. So, and I was prompted to go in and comment on that because I saw that it was given 5 stars and I thought it was awful. So you have to be careful if you have a TripAdvisor profile as well. If someone gives you a negative review, you need to reply to it constructively. Travel media, newspapers, magazines, in your own countries, abroad, journalists, ecotourism journalists, target them. Invite them to stay with you. Show them a good time. Tell them about what you're doing, because these are the people that can spread your message as well, to the people who are likely to come and visit you. It's good targeting. Printed media. What's the future of printed media? I don't know, there's a lot of leaflets and things outside we've seen. So, at least here, now, it's still relevant. It depends on what target group you're going for. Some people like to take home a leaflet so that they can read in peace at home. Some people like to download apps. This is something that's becoming increasingly popular now. And in destinations, if you place a small advertisement on a guide map, these are things that people will go into a bookstore or somewhere and take a guide map so that they can see what is on offer quickly and easily. And guidebooks. People are still using guidebooks. Lonely Planet, from us, they still take them with them because some people prefer to use printed books. A lot of the guidebooks are going on to apps now, so that's worth bearing in mind too. Ecotourism forums. Get involved. Tell them what you think. Spread the word about your business. Exchange. Because, again, this is how you can meet people, you can learn, you can network. And trade fairs. Is this something for you? Have a think about it. Local, national. Is the investment of going to a trade fair and selling what you have worth it? I don't know, it's for you to decide. Internet retailers. There are an increasing amount of online platforms that are providing ecotourism, sustainable tourism experiences. Find out about them and spread your message there as well. And awards. We talked about awards yesterday as well. If your business receives an award, talk about it. Could be a national, local award, could be an international award. We said yesterday that the people deciding about giving the awards may be biased, we don't know. I think overall, if you're awarded something for the tourism services that you're providing, you should talk about it. Now, challenges from Greece. I interviewed a number of people in Greece about how they're feeling about ecotourism and the future of what we're trying to do there. It's very relevant. People agreed that it is becoming increasingly popular, both within Greece and outside. People are realizing slowly but surely that Greece has a lot of potential for ecotourism. But there's a lack of commitment. A lack of commitment from the government, from local authorities, from businesses. People are desperate. People want to earn money. They want to earn money quickly. They will call their business an ecotourism business if it means that they can attract tourists from abroad. Still poor understanding. That's why we're here as well today, to try and figure out what is ecotourism. Should we call it ecotourism? Anna mentioned the development of e-tourism, ecotourism. There are so many definitions of tourism, and I think that as long as you understand what is behind it and go into learning about what the principles of ecotourism are, you don't need to call it ecotourism to communicate it effectively. I mentioned it was mainly a foreign market, and I mentioned this yesterday as well. crisis brings change. Crisis is hard. Crisis brings solidarity, brings people together. It makes them think differently. Less people are travelling abroad. They want to travel within the country in Greece. They want to travel to areas that they're not used to going to. And they mentioned that cost-effective marketing through social media is very important, because they cannot justify at the moment spending large amounts of money on advertising and not being guaranteed returns. And this is very important as well. The whole community must be involved in order for this to be a productive exercise. If one person gave me an example of the beach outside her beautiful resort or her hotel, takes care of the environment, does everything to the book, but the guests go out to the beach and it's full of rubbish. And they try to clean up the beach, but it's a continual problem. There are hunters. Hunters in Greece are very stubborn people. And it's difficult. I'm going in as an English person now, and I'm going to have to talk to people to try and convince them that they shouldn't kill all the birds. I don't know how that's going to go down. We'll see. Help from others. Jeppe mentioned this, guests. Use your guests as ambassadors. Get them to talk about you. Because that way, people are more likely to come and visit you by hearing something good through their friend and how much a great experience it was through word of mouth and reviews than if you tried to tell them how good you are. Local partners. I mentioned again yesterday. Get the local people involved. Not just the tourism providers, but the supermarket. And try and convince them to not give out so many plastic bags that end up on the beach 5 minutes later. Tell bars not to give out plastic straws, plastic cups that they take on the beach as well, the tourists, and just throw them down. Media, local media. Get them involved. I've already mentioned it. I won't dwell on that again. And awards. So for me, remember, in my view, in addition to all of the messages we heard yesterday, I think you need to adapt and evolve. Keep an eye on what's happening in the ecotourism, sustainable tourism world. Keep up to date and evolve your business. If you're already providing ecotourism now, after this conference, go back, have a rethink. Are you actually doing everything you're saying? Use this conference as an opportunity to think again and see if you can evolve and adapt your business. Stay flexible. Don't just be completely rigid in your views. Be committed. Work together with the local people and local operators. And think outside the box. Do things differently. I didn't mention on purpose that another factor you have to think about that's also crucial, not on how to communicate ecotourism, but how to remain financially sustainable. And that is, know your competition. What do your competition offer in terms of experience, destination, activities, sustainability, all of these things? Make sure you look at them and adapt your own business so that you remain competitive. Here is a checklist. I won't go through everything, but this presentation it's not actually the same version. I updated it a little bit, but this will be available on the website, and we can always email it to you as well. This is a very useful checklist that I took from the above document that I'd like to acknowledge. It was produced by Ecotourism Ireland, by the Social Ecological Institute here in Poland, and with Jachranka in Norway. And it's a very useful tool. That's how you can access it. I suggest that you all take a look. And these two documents here from Futera, a UK-based company, are a useful reading as well. They go into detail on how to communicate using words that sell on sustainability and how to brand biodiversity in your favour. Okay, 10:47. Now we get to the European Ecotourism Network. I want to ask, who of you here has seen that website? Can you put your hand up really high? Okay. So about 10% of the people here. This shows that we really need to take the time now at this conference to discuss how we can use this tool, because it is a very useful tool. It's available in several languages. This was the product of ECOLNet, the European funded project that we discussed at the last conference. There is learning material on here. The Knowledge Centre talks about the European Ecotourism labelling standard that very few people here are aware of. This is also GSTC recognised, and it could be a means for all of the national ecotourism societies to ensure that what they are doing is similar in terms of certification, that it fulfills the same standards. Has anyone seen this? Again, very few people. We need to think of ways together and how we can communicate effectively across Europe. And that's my first question that I want to discuss now, because I looked at the programme and I'm worried that we won't have a chance to talk about the things that matter regarding the future of ecotourism in Europe. So do I have any volunteers that will give me their feedback on this question? Silence. Anyone? Any ideas? Mary?
I know yourself, myself and Ivor last year tried to do an ecotourism chat online, and we didn't get much participation. Do you know what I mean? So I think we need to look at the issues. Are people not using social media? Is it they would prefer to chat virtually? Should we just do one good study trip every year where we really get to know each country better and use them as learning journeys and network? Why aren't all the European countries networking their websites? You know what I mean? The real referral business, do you know what I mean? That we get to know each other's products. That it starts with business, maybe rather than a project and a project and a project. I don't know. I think we have more benefits in working together, but I think when you do partnerships, you need people that are going to work and talk about it. And they seem to be quite rare people.
Thanks. Anyone else? Yes.
Yeah, I think that student exchange programs and high school students exchange programs would probably work the best, because when we start too late, we need a new generation to be the ambassadors and the advocates for what we are talking here today. For us, it's kind of too late because we preach to the converted, and and education is not a big partner, and it should be, because if we don't start with the education of young kids, then we know we're in a hurry.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Yes, over here.
I think that what may help is just sharing good practices. So, for example, I don't think that there is a big competition cross-border, because each country and even each region in the country has its specifics. But just being provided with like kind of good examples so we can see what each other we are doing, what products and how we marketing this, and how we communicate to our clients. This would be a great help, because usually in ecotourism we have small entrepreneurs, at least in Poland. So we have very limited resources in terms of money and time, but we can learn a lot from each other.
Do you think that this platform should be in English, so that we can all understand it? It seems to make sense. Perhaps we could use the existing platforms that we have and create sections for best practice for the different societies here.
And examples of products.
Yeah. And I think that what Mary said as well is something I will take away for Greece. The people who visit your website in Ireland are the people that are going to be interested in coming to Greece to experience a different type of ecotourism, a Greek type, that we are about to define and promote. Yes, at the back.
Zapytałabym raczej, dlaczego mamy to w ogóle wzmacniać i... Sorry.
Does anyone have an earpiece that I can borrow quickly? Or just... Okay.
Moje pytanie koresponduje z tym, czy jest za późno, czy nie za późno na rozwijanie tej komunikacji w pokoleniu na przykład już mocno dorosłych turystów. Ale chodzi mi o to, czemu to ma służyć, jaki mamy cel tak naprawdę, czy chcemy rozwijać tę turystykę tak, żeby jak najwięcej ludzi brało w niej udział, czy nie zabijemy ekoturystyki w ten sposób, bo wydaje mi się, że dla tych, którzy naprawdę są zainteresowani ekoturystyką, są tymi turystami, którzy interesują się rdzenną turystyką przyrodniczą, te wszystkie media i informacje są dostępne i oni właśnie się na tych portalach porozumiewają i zorganizują między sobą. Natomiast jeżeli chcemy wzmocnić informacje o ekoturystyce, to nie na tych portalach, tylko na zwykłych portalach dostępnych, na przykład opowiadających o walorach przyrodniczych gminy, kraju, jakiegoś regionu. Tam nie mamy informacji o tym, że możemy uprawiać turystykę przyrodniczą. Więc pytanie, o które portale tak naprawdę nam chodzi, co jeżeli chcemy komunikować o tym, że mamy środowisko przyrodnicze, które możemy odwiedzać, jak je odwiedzać, po co je odwiedzać i co z tego wynikałoby nawet dla gospodarki i ludności miejscowej. Wydaje mi się, że komunikacja na ten temat powinna pójść, jeżeli chcemy coś więcej zrobić dla ochrony środowiska poprzez turystykę, innymi kanałami, a nie takimi, którymi mnie się wydaje, że ludzie faktycznie wiedzący, o co chodzi w ekoturyzmie, są obecni.
I think, do you mean what we're proposing with the European network?
Can you repeat the question shortly?
Not really.
Not really, okay.
Was what are we preaching to the converted, and where should we communicate ecotourism? Which channels? From what I understood, I'm looking at this from a Greek perspective, and from the perspective as a member of the Hellenic Ecotourism Society. Ecotourism is not a very well-known idea yet in Greece, especially with the main tourism portals. You don't see any mention of ecotourism yet, or sustainable tourism. It's all focused on mass tourism, beach tourism, sun, sea, sand. I think that the people here can communicate together with a view to helping those in their countries that can't communicate or that they don't know how yet to communicate what they have effectively. That's what I'm talking about here, is how to communicate ecotourism as a business or as an ecotourism society, to try and develop it. The people that I've spoken to here who are from ecotourism societies have all confirmed that it's difficult. It's difficult to fund and sustain the ecotourism societies, and for this reason I think it's important that they are able to communicate effectively to get more businesses on board, to get government support.
My name is Aivar from Estonian Ecotourism Society.
Pleased to meet you.
As I'm a little bit nervous, next speaker, it's nice to have some training more. So I believe there is no really good single answer for this question, and it contains like many questions. So one thing what was discussed now is like whom we are talking about. Is it businesses? Is it between governments of European countries? And one good way seems to be that if the country has some kind of ecotourism scheme, like what exists in Norway, Sweden, Ireland, Romania, Estonia, in Spain, together with Europark. So, and then it means that there is some network nationally. The other question is how to communicate between all these European countries, and I strongly believe that we need something in Baltic Sea region, like 10 countries around the Baltic Sea, and maybe Mediterranean countries have a better chance to get together if they focus on the region, as Europe is rather diverse. And just comment,
Yeah,
not the question.
Thanks. Yep.
Just a reflection. Hi, this is Jachranka. I spoke yesterday. I've been thinking a bit and reflecting on this whole thing, how to communicate tourism better between. We're standing here and we actually tell that we need to cooperate, we need to collaborate a lot more. That's the message that we're passing to everyone here. But what sort of collaboration and cooperation is there actually in between the different ecotourism organizations? There's actually very little. Now, my colleague from Norway, she ran out, but I work with the Swedish Ecotourism Society, and we actually have no communication whatsoever with the Norwegian, and nothing with the Irish, and nothing with anyone else. So when we organize events such as this, what would one expect for all of these organizations to actually be present? I'm actually not here on behalf of the Swedish Ecotourism Society. And I'm actually quite skeptical towards my colleagues within the Swedish Ecotourism Society that they are not here. So I think that in the future, what we need to do is to make sure that we have the presence of these organizations on events such as this. But also, as we spoke about earlier, Mary, about getting the tourism organizations to participate in this, to actually understand, to communicate with them what this is all about. That was not a question, it was just a reflection.
What we need to try and avoid, which happened since the last Ecotourism Conference, is that unfortunately, it's the pattern of, yeah, let's do it, let's get together, we'll do everything, and it's great, and then you go away and you get back into your usual daily routine, busy people, and then it's put on a back burner. I think we're all guilty of that.
I would like to share with you my experience. I used to run an eco coffee shop in Warsaw. And I found that the best way of promoting my business was just sharing the ideas of eco places around the city. and the eco places around the city also promote my place. And people were in the channel because it's very hard to convince people outside, which people who don't see value in eco to go to our places, and people who are already visiting the places, for sure they will visit places, right?
Very true, and it's difficult to convince businesses at present in a country like Greece that want to earn money quickly. An example, last week I was at the west coast of Peloponnese as part of another project looking for a hotel. And the hotel owner was complaining so much that he can't develop something on the beach. He wants to put up a little beach bar. This is one of the most important nesting sites, turtle nesting sites in Europe. And luckily, up until now, it's still remained pristine. But the people get a chance, and it's not regulated properly, then it will be destroyed very quickly.
I just want to also share my experience, which can also be kind of idea how to share, how to communicate ecotourism between countries. 2 years ago, I took part in an event called Summer Academy called Challenges of Sustainable Development. And that were 3 weeks which were followed by about 3 months of intensive e-learning course where we had to go through a bunch of materials and we have to pass tests to go forward. And in this project took part like about 100 people, and it was aimed to the Southeast Europe, so Poland, Bulgaria, Romania, Ukraine, and some other past Soviet republics. And I think that was the kind of answer to some kind of actions that we take to boost the sustainable development. And I think that in any kind of action that we want to undertake, there is some kind of risk, like one lady mentioned and asked, why should we actually communicate this ecotourism? Because that can also be risky for the some pristine areas. So I think this is kind of also a challenge that the ecotourism is facing, and by making some seminars which can involve participants from different countries, which can meet in, let's say, Poland or Greece or England, where they can think of certain solutions and collect their ideas. I think that's also that can be the way to communicate ecotourism, and also to avoid the risk that it entails.
I think that we can use the tools that are available online to communicate with each other as well. We don't need to come to seminars. It's great. Admittedly, it's different when you're talking to the person face to face. If we want to cut down on our carbon emissions and still be able to communicate effectively, using hangouts and things like this are a way forward, I think.
Well, I think that we are all familiar. I think we are all familiar with the old saying that it takes two to tango, and I think that the communication channel and the communication content, those are two different things, because we can communicate among ourselves as professionals and share practices and exchange ideas. And we can also communicate to the broader public, because responsible tourism, it's not only the tourism provider, it's the tourism consumer, and I don't think, it's a survival, not in our generation, but 2 generations ahead. We only be talking about survival if we are not careful with the resources. So I think we should start educating general public and use every available channel to do that, talking about consequences and talking about responsible tourism on the part of the tourism customer, not only on the tourism provider.
I think that we've run out of time. I don't want to cut too much into your presentation, Iva.
We started later.
Are there any more questions? I will just put up one more question, and you don't have to answer it now, but I want you to think about this, because it's something we haven't spoken about. How do you communicate ecotourism to the guests when they're actually staying at your hotel, guest house, taking part in one of your tours? Once you've got them there, I think it's also very important to communicate with them when they're on the ground. Tell them about what you're doing. Take them on a sustainability tour, or show them the methods that you're using. Talk to them. Storytelling, we've talked about around the campfire. It's a great opportunity to spread the message about what you're doing and why you're doing it, and share your passion. And yes, Anne?
Yeah, I really would encourage you to use the term ecotourism among yourselves. The customer hasn't a clue what it means. But when you're talking about communicating ecotourism to guests, what you're really saying is, how can we get the guests to care about nature? All right? And so everybody's got their own form of manifestation of nature, whether it's a local park, forest, or a particular member of the wildlife community. But it's our language that we've got to use, really plain language that conveys our, again, I'm sorry to be a broken record, but conveys our caring, conveys our passion. But the term ecotourism per se, you know, hello, good morning everybody, I want to sit down and communicate ecotourism to you, is an enormous turn-off. You know, but on the other hand, did you know last night this particular bird appeared or was singing in the tree outside, and if you were to stay awake tonight with me, we might be able to hear it again. That's not ecotourism, that's sharing the nature in which you are embedded. That's not a subtle point, I hope, but I think it's a really important one. Thanks.
It's interesting. If you read the article that Iva wrote, it's interesting how he developed his business without using these terms, but still sharing that message.
If I can continue the presentation.
Okay, thank you very much.